that? Good.
Good, man. Good. Well, we're waiting for everybody to chime in. Just a quick reminder that tomorrow, which is a sold out, we can squeeze some local people in there, non-local people if you'd like to make it. But Kyle Whistle will be here tomorrow in Placer County at the Placer County Association of Realtors from 2 to 4. My understanding is that registration tickets are sold out. We've got a couple extra. I know Alana, I told Kim, just show up and we'll get you in there, and there'll be no problem with that. But highly suggest everybody show up if they can. And that's 2 to 4 tomorrow at PCAR. Okay. While we're waiting for everybody else to dump in, we're going to listen to this week's.
Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you.
There you go. We're going to listen to this week's
Debbie.
Altos Research. I'm just going to go. Some of you guys are non-muted, so here we go. Okay. That didn't work. Stop sharing. Where is it? All right, there we go.
Another big week for climbing available inventory. Is the market slowing down? Are we seeing the distressed sellers finally come to market as the foreclosure moratorium ends? Something to be worried about? Well, that's what we're looking at in this week's Altos Research Market Report. Each week, Altos tracks every home for sale in the country, all the pricing, all the changes in pricing, all the market dynamics so that you can see that data here before it becomes available through the traditional data channels. It's Monday, July 26, 2021, and here is the data for the week. The total available inventory of single-family homes for sale popped this week, another 3.2% to 402,000. That was definitely bigger than we expected for the week. In normal years, you might see inventory just inch up from week to week near the end of July. Inventory usually peaks in August as the summer buying season comes to a close. Inventory is now up 31% from the bottom of the market, which was the last week of April. But remember that March and April this year were the peak of the pandemic market frenzy. And I'm going to be fascinated to watch if inventory keeps climbing, surging later than normal into the fall. Normally, you can see that we plateau for several months before mid-October when the market falls way back before the holidays. And normally this would be just like a fraction of a percent change week to week. So this week's 3% climb is notable. Just last week, I said that we'd peak below 400,000 homes. And so I've got that wrong already. So this will be the first thing that I watch next week to see if this trend continues. So the question is it more supply or less demand that allows the unsold inventory to accumulate in the market? At the end of July is the end of the foreclosure moratorium. And so are these sellers, distressed sellers, suddenly motivated to unload a home they can't afford? To be honest, I haven't heard a single anecdote of distressed sellers at the end of the moratorium. But if you are an agent and you have clients who are suddenly motivated or suddenly must sell because they can't afford and the protections are now gone, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or reach out directly. To me, though, if we look at our immediate sales tracker, rather than a big surge in supply, it looks like what we're seeing is a continued decline in the demand, the buyer demand frenzy that we've been in. Here's how I interpret it. This week, a total of 104,000 homes hit the market, slightly fewer than last week's 109,000. And this week, though, the thing we had was slightly fewer immediate sales. So they came in just under 22,000, leaving more of those new listings on the market to build the inventory. So it's still 20% of all the new listings sold essentially immediately this week. They got offers and went into contract within hours or just days. It's still crazy, crazy levels of demand. But a slightly lower frenzy means that it allows some of those properties to sit unsold for at least a few days. And so you can see from this chart, at the far right side of the chart, there's no surge of new inventory hitting the market. It's a good level of inventory and just slightly fewer demand. So maybe we'll see this surge after July when the officially the moratorium ends, but not yet. The sellers and listing agents see this demand change, and ever so slightly we can see it in the prices here too. The median home price this week for a single family home in the US is $398,900. That's down just $100 from last week. What I expect us to see, the seasonal pullback actually hit more notably in August, but it's the price of the new listings where you really see the wisdom of the listing agents first. So a new listing comes to market. As they come to market, the sellers and listing agents are going to price down a fraction to make sure the house doesn't sit around too long in the market. At $360,000, the median price of the new listings is unchanged from last week, but we could see down from a peak in earlier in July. I pointed out previously that this leading indicator has stayed stronger for longer this summer, which tells us that the transaction prices in the future will still be strong for several months. In the next few weeks, you can expect the price of the new listings to be very sensitive to the changes in demand. So if demand continues to weaken, this is one of the places we'll see it first. The other place we'll see any demand changes will be in this leading indicator. This is the percent of properties on the market with price reductions. Normally about a third take a price cut before they sell. In the last 12 months, we have had very unusual demand, but we can see that we're rapidly normalizing. Price reductions jumped almost 1% this week to 22.6%. If you look at the normal yearly cycles, this jump is not exactly crazy or scary, but it is different from last year. So price reductions will keep climbing. Sellers will need to unload before the school year starts and then before the holidays. But if the price reductions jump faster than normal or catch up to the old normal levels, this is going to be a signal for transaction prices down the road. It'll be a real signal about where demand is changing. House on the market now, if it gets no offers, it takes a price cut so that the transaction prices later will be lower. Finally, when we talk about cooling demand, I want to make sure we keep it in context. This is our market action index. This is an at-a-glance measure to answer how's the market. The light colored line here, the jumpy one, this is the weekly readings. And any given week can jump because of holidays or weather, move around, but all kinds of influences. But the dark line is how we therefore show the trend. When we look over the past several years, we see normal seasonal patterns. The market peaks April, May, June before declining in the second half of the year. This was an important insight last year because it showed us that demand was accelerating in the crazy pandemic market. You can see also how the frenzy peaked in April of this year. That's also when inventory bottomed. So now the market is cooling off on much more normal seasonal pattern. It is important to realize that nationally, the market action index is still in record territory. 30 on this measure is a balanced market, and below 30, that means inventory has built up enough to be buyer's opportunity. Nationally, we've been in such a strong market. We haven't seen real buyer's opportunity, not real buyer's opportunities since earlier in the decade. I expect we'll see the MAI settle in the 40s later in this year. Inventory will remain tight, demand will remain strong, and so it'll still be strong sellers market conditions until we see a significant change in mortgage rates. Those changes have not happened yet, and so when they do, you'll be able to see the impact here very quickly. Okay, that's all the data we have time for this week.
All right, guys. So I'm a seller, and I've written down a bunch of these narratives or bullet points that I could share with somebody when I'm at a listing appointment. But what does that current conversation look like when you're speaking to buyers or sellers? Anybody? We got about 20 people on the call, so throw me out something. I'm a seller. What are you going to tell me based on this information? What's the narrative that you're sharing out into the marketplace in regards to this? These are the reasons we're having this conversation on a weekly basis. Because if we'd been watching this for the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, what Michael's really been telling us is coming to fruition based on the numbers. And this is why it's so imperative that you're sharing this information with your database, with your phone, database too. Text messages going out with your social media. Really, somebody. You guys wanted to talk? Oh, there you are, Rich. Okay. What really we're trying to explain here is a couple of different things. Number one, what key indicators? Climbing available inventory went up 3.2% this week. If you remember last week, it went up 4.4%. Over a 14-day period, inventory nationally went up 7.6%. That's pretty, those are some pretty, I would say for a real estate agent, so some pretty alarming numbers. Up 31, listing inventory is up 31% since April. So the question that Michael asked was, is that less supply? Is that more demand? Less demand? What is that? What's coming in regards to what's coming on the market? And the true answer was the same amount of homes, the same amount of units are being listed every week. But what we're seeing is a plateau, if you will, with supply. And that was the prediction that was going to happen in August. So what we want you to do is when you're sitting with your clients, we want you to have these conversations with them and how it's going to affect what the bottom line looks like for them. We're not seeing, for buyers right now, we're not seeing a huge increase in inventory. We're just seeing seasonally, I think it plays into it too. People are on vacation. We saw the seasonality drop in July based on 4th of July. We've got some new COVID politically, maybe, or health related. We've got some new COVID cases that, with the Delta variant that are popping up these past 10 days. But the bottom line is, demand for buyers has peaked. And the anticipation is that's not going to get any better for a seller. So if a seller wants to get the max value for their house, really, they're in this precipice of now is the time based on our 6 factors of selling a home. 6 factors being, you guys know what they are: access and timing, market timing, and the marketing that's going out there, and the price and the location and the condition. Those are the 6 inevitable things that sell the house. Right now, these next 2-3 weeks is the best time for a seller to get the best price for a house. That's probably going to happen over the next 2 quarters in real estate. And so anyway, that's really that's the summation of what Michael is sharing with us. And again, we play these things every Wednesday, but I implore you to go around and look in the Altos, look in that data, look in that information for the specific reports for your neck of the woods, if you will. And see what the MAI, what the Market Action Index is doing in Roseville or in El Dorado Hills or, in Burlingame, if you will. So that's a little bit of information about the market. Still letting people in here. I want to ask you a question. We got a lot of information to put out today, and I got 45 minutes to do it. So I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to ask, how plugged in have you been? How plugged in have you been to the tools and resources that are available to you? And when I say that, I'm asking a lot of people, dude, hey, how many classes have you gone into? How much training have you taken advantage of? Not just these Wednesday trainings that we have here, but actually into the world. And if you don't know, if you're new to EXP or you didn't know, there is a really quick and easy way to access this information. And simply it's called EXP Cloud. And you can go in here, and today is Wednesday. You can see all of the classes that are available to you today based on high-level icon-related series for agents who are doing like 30 to 40 deals minimum a year, to just starting your business, to how to do a P&L, to masterminding. All those types of things are in here. And for those of you who want to get more dialed in regards to disclosures and contracts, we have a whole nother series of classes that can be identified here on the right hand side, and it's super simple. You can go in here and, for instance, this one, utilizing your connection to attract agents, click on that. It tells you where to go, what time it is, and you can copy it right to your calendar. So use the tools, resources that are available for you to keep scaling your business and keep growing. Before we move on to today's training, anybody have anything that I'm going to stop to share real quick. Anybody have anything they want to talk about today?
I just wanted to mention that.
Hey, Lee.
Hi, Dan just got his first transaction. Yay. It was a buyer that we met at our very first open house that we did for Eileen.
Awesome.
And going off of what you were just talking about, as a new agent, it's really interesting to see the momentum and the speed that the market was going at. And then suddenly, like 4th of July and the few weeks after that, there's this kind of pause. And it's kind of caught everyone off guard. And so we've been hearing from a lot of agents about how they're just not getting the offers. And we're hearing about these price reductions. And we actually got this deal because a house that we didn't even bother writing on because we thought it was going to go for over our buyer's budget. The seller sent out a bulletin saying, okay, we're tired of this. We're willing to do a transparent price of X amount, and it's first come, first serve. And we jumped on it and we got it.
Awesome.
But it's really interesting, just, going off of what Alto's just said and what you're saying is just kind of witnessing this bump in the momentum of the market.
Yeah, and for those of you who have been, Eileen's on the call, and I know Rich is on the call, and Hal's on too. For those of us who have gone through a few different cycles, both seasonal cycle, a lot of seasonal cycles, but through the actual real estate cycling of buyer's market to seller's market to normal market, you'll note that it moves almost overnight. And it's so important that you're taking this information. You know me, I'm a big marketing and prospecting guy. I'm like, you guys, get on it, let's go. And the reason is because I have used this information to interpret where my business needs to be in 6 months. And if you don't, meaning, hey, where are we going to be in 6 months? Where's my target going to be? Is it going to be a normal market? Am I going to have to carry 15 more listings to get me to the same revenue stream, because I know only 65% of those are going to sell, and a third of those are going to need price reductions, which is going to increase the cost of the listing to me because I've got to keep it on market longer, right? You're using all this interpretive data not only from an immediate like CEO, COO, where's the money coming from, but also as a chief marketing officer going, who's going to be our client in 6 months, and where are we getting them now, and how do we get them maneuvered from a consumer perspective to the point that they're ready to transact in 3, 4, 5, or 6 months. And from a larger level, you really look at this from a CFO level, and you go, okay, where's my revenue coming from in September? Where's my revenue coming from in November and December and January? And that pipeline, if you will, needs to be built out. So if I had a huge whiteboard, I would have January, February, March, April, May, June of 2022, and I would immediately start filling those in. Bob in Paradise is going to be selling in, at the first of the year. Okay, great. That's the revenue that's coming in. And when you're making these weekly calls and connections and bringing value, that's where you're steering them to. as a great lead generator, prospector, influencer, persuasion, value adder to the, you know, content creator. You're maneuvering them to a mutual decision, a mutually beneficial decision at that time. So now, if I'm calling Lee, if I'm calling you and I know you're going to transact in December, maybe the conversation is, hey, you know, I know your main purpose or your main goal in selling is to get the highest price. Based on the numbers we're seeing now, we may have eclipsed the heat of the seller's market, and you may think about getting it on the market in the next 3 months in order to save yourself 30,000. Converse, or you know, make 30,000 or 40 or 50 or 60, whatever that number is. But conversely, Lee, when I'm having that conversation with the client, I'm gearing them to say, when we list in November, when we list in, you know, hey, by the way, Lee, this is my weekly call, just checking in with you. I want to make sure we still have Susie the stager scheduled to be there in September, because we need 4 to 6 weeks to do this work, to enable us to get it on the market in November. That's part of our sales job along the way. Utilizing a timing board, understanding where the market is going and who we need to have in our pipeline by the time the market is changing, and then providing some direction. So I'm so glad you brought that up. Good stuff. Anybody have anything else? Okay, so let's go talk a little bit about slideshow here. Okay, so a couple quick notes. We still have the Build conference coming up in August. I know we have a few people who are on the call who are going. If you want to go, I won't be able to make this event this year, but if you want to go and you can't get a ticket, call me and I'll work with Brent and his team to try and set it up. We've got EXPCon in person, November 9th through 11th, that you'll remember we talked about last week. So I will be going to that event. So put that in your calendar. For those Icon agents, you will need to also go to the event to make sure you're getting your $2,000 in stock. This week, we talked about a little bit about when we first got on the call. I'm sorry to have scrolled up, but Kyle Whistle will be here in town in Rockland tomorrow, 2 to 4. There's still availability to get in there, even though the Eventbrite says that the registration is filled up. Call me if you want to go to this event. And then we've got our Bay Area event next Tuesday, August 3rd. Spoke with Matt today. We've got just over 50 people who have registered for this event. So I really would love it, and almost expect to see everybody from the Bay Area there. This is our first event that we've done post-COVID in the Bay, and we're going to bring a lot of energy, content, and information to this event. So that's at Devil's Canyon, 12 to 3 next Tuesday. All right, so let's dive in today. And today I wanted to go back and I just alluded to this conversation that we've been having all year, and to cover a couple of the last topics that we've spoken about. You know, we had 3 ways to finish at the end of the career. We were talking about language of real estate. We talked about choosing to be successful. But I really want you to sit back and think about right now, how are you attracting listings? It's a weird conversation. And I think about it like a magnet. What am I doing in the marketplace to take my magnet and throw it around the room and see what's attractive?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm gonna have to pause you. Chris, mute yourself, buddy. I'll do it for you. So when I talk about this company A and that we've been building forever, which is this prospecting and lead gen and marketing and persuasion and influence and content and attraction company. So what I wanted to do today was give you a few tools and resources that you can personally use to try and attract listings instead of trying to force the listings through a sales call. Okay. And when we talk about prospecting and lead generation and marketing, I really, for the rest of the year, want you to think that those words that have crept into our head of sales and prospecting hurts us and we hate to market and we're in the sales game. I want you to turn that mentally and really start thinking about what you're doing to bring value, but also what you're doing to attract people during your time frame of that you've set aside, what we call green time for marketing and prospecting. And so these are what we're going to share with you today are items that you can immediately implement by yourself, with your sales team, for those of you who have sales teams, with your assistants, or if you don't have assistants, with your virtual assistants. One way or the other, these things need to become part of your basics. And what we're talking about today, really, I want you to think and put an overlay on. These are the basics of how to attract listings. And if you're not doing them, it should be an epiphany to you to say, okay, this should be our goal for next week. Take that safety stand down time on Monday or Tuesday and say, I'm going to implement these things. The goal of this conversation, always thinking with the end of the vine, is that we ask ourselves the question, how many listings will I take in the next 5 months? Why? Next 5 months takes us to the end of the year, but it also sets us up for a great first quarter of next year. Talking about that pipeline, if your pipeline isn't robust right now, and I'm telling you, year over year, empirically, people's income dramatically drops in the first quarter because most people aren't transacting during that time frame. So we want to utilize this to really bring some momentum to the end of the year, which will help drive future revenue through the first quarter of 2022. Then we're going to take that number and we say, hey, I want, over the next 5 months, I want 10 listings, and that means 2 a month. So we're going to divide that number by the month, and that will give us our goal. And the growth model just very quickly centers around something like this. Did you think 10% of the people in your database are ready or considering a real estate transaction? So when people ask me, Sean, what's the best way to get new business? A lot of people want to go very off their rocker, and they want to do their own thing, meaning they're trying things out. I say you have to, if I'm growing a company, I'm going to follow the models of the people who have gone before me who are highly successful. So those people who are highly successful in our industry have a robust database that's being fed all the time and is utilized as a sales funnel. So I would ask the question in this growth model before the end of the year, if you were able to reach out to your database and we knew 10% of those people are in some cases going to transact over the next 1 to 6 months, that should be able to give you some kind of a number. For instance, if I've got 100 people on my database and 10% of them are going to transact in some way, buy, sell, investment property, relocate, retire, move up, move down, whatever it is, that can give us a vast number of people, which we're going to dive into the actual numbers of it, who will transact. This requires, as we've been speaking about forever, multiple pillars of lead sources that dump in to a funnel of which we're nurturing and nudging. And just like I said, you put that big number on the board and say, here are the numbers that I have to hit to get to the goal at the end of the year, at the end of 12 months, or at the end of 3 months. But they're all predicated on these nurture and nudges. And so if we look at it, we go, okay, 1 to 3 pillars is going to be an okay business. Just okay. In our industry, okay doesn't make it. Okay means you have a second job, to be honest with you, because life is expensive. Inflation is here. Prices are going up. So we've got to have at least 1 to 3 pillars of which we are trying to master to have an okay business. 4 to 6 equals good. 7 to 9 is great. 9 to 12 pillars means we can have a team, we can have leverage, we can scale our business into different marketplaces, and we can build an empire. Okay, so don't be starting your team too early. The general rule of thumb for starting a team is that you have enough leads that you can't work. I've got 30 leads coming in a month. I can't work half of them. I need somebody to work those. Here you go, team. Okay, that should be the nexus event for you building a team. But these pillars should be all focused really on listing attraction at this point, because that is our goal. We get listings. Listings equal marketing opportunities equals exposure equals being in front of buyers, which gives us another pool of business. So we want these 1 to 3 pillars. If we go back here, whatever it is, direct mail and database and referral sites and social media, dumping into our nurture. Okay, that's just the basics of how a model, how in real estate, how the growth model goes. So I want to share with you this. Here is number 1, texting script. We've all got to be using texting in our repertoire right now of lead generation and keeping up with our database and connecting and adding value to our referral partners. Here's a quick texting script that we want you to send out to everybody in your database over the next 4 weeks. Why do we want you to not send out 1,000 text messages today? Because you won't be able to return the inbound messages that are coming back to you. Text everyone in your database over the next 4 weeks. Here are some actual results from, these are Tom Ferry results. This specific agent texted 181 people over a 4-week period. He got 144 responses. 44 of those people raised their hand and said, in some way, I want to do something in real estate, or I need something. And out of that 181, 38 CMAs were created. We're going to talk about delivering CMAs to your clients later today. 12 of them are in the research phase to sell over the next 1 to 2 years. 3 listings taken over a 4-week period. 4 clients referred to a refi, to a lender for a refi. Don't forget those. The benefit of you having a vast network of people who are in the real estate economy, if you will, and those are lenders and insurance professionals and CPAs and financial planners, is that you can refer them and bring value to those referral partners. And 2 clients got approved to buy investment property. Pretty damn good return on just sending out a text message. Now, here's the goal. You got to send it out, something that's easily copied and paste, and we'll talk about that, but something that's a little fun, banana peel or house, or something that sets you apart, that's different, that gets them to engage. Don't just do straight text. You could also try a video text, which is just you taking a quick message and saying, hey, Bob, haven't talked to you for a while. Hope you and the family are well. This real estate market is crazy. I'm reaching out to see if you're curious about the value of your home. It's been a year. Are you interested? Boom, save that, text it right out. This can be a fun exercise for you to leverage your marketing and prospecting time, but very good return, I would say, based on those text messages. So how do we do that? Really easy. It's the copy, the content. You don't have to create it. It's right here. It's the copy, the paste, change the name, and send. And we'd want you to do that if you're committed to changing the scope of the business over the next 5 months. We've got to do that to everybody in our database and our referral partners, if you will. All right. So number 2, number 1, text message. Basics of building. You're not utilizing text messages right now in your lead generation and your content marketing. You're falling behind the times. Number 2, leverage your qualified buyers to attract sellers. Some people are going to go, how do we do that? What do you mean? Well, how many qualified buyers are you working with right now? You should probably, if you've been out there and at open houses and buying leads and taking referrals that are coming in, most of you should have no less than a dozen qualified buyers that you're working with right now that are really out there looking immediately for houses. So how can you leverage this? Well, here's an example of testimonials from Zillow. Here's a note, and it simply says, dear neighbor, I'm representing a serious buyer who's interested in your home. I'm sure you've seen what's happened with the home values. My client is financially qualified and flexible on timing if you have any thoughts of selling your home. Could be the best scenario. If you're interested, perhaps I could show your home. If not, could you text or email me so I can inform my client? Respectfully, Sean. Put it in a normal envelope with a weird stamp, a marriage stamp, a work stamp, something fun, because your goal is to get them to open this. This is a personal hand addressed stamped envelope, non-branded with EXP or your logo. If you have their follow-up information, follow up with a call. Hey, Rich, did you get my letter? We've got 16 buyers that as a team, we've got 16 buyers who we're working with in Casa Verdera who immediately want to transact. Leverage your property boost. So for instance, if you're in Lincoln or Pacifica, Lee, I'm looking at you. If you're in Pacifica and you have the ability to do a property boost out there that enables you to collect information. If I did a property boost on a property in Pacifica, I'm going to get about 10 to 12 leads over a week time frame of people who may want to transact there. That's a great narrative to share with the seller. I've got 12 qualified or 12 buyers looking in this area immediately who want to buy. So leverage these buyers, this big buyer pool, to attract the sellers. There's also this thing in KV Core I can't remember the name of it. If you go into or if you go into lead generation sources in KV Core, it will actually print you out a one-page summation of everyone at EXP who's looked or who's got buyers in Pacifica or Lincoln. And it says like, we've got, active right now, we've got 1,200 buyers, whatever it is. And, out of those 1,200 immediately ready to go, pre-approved, there's like, 10 or whatever. Leverage those tools to attract sellers, okay? Use the property boost as well. So far we've talked about really simple stuff, texting and creating handwritten information to leverage our exposure. These are brilliant basics, and everybody needs to have these in their repertoire of what they're using right now to attract listings. If you're not using text messages as far as lead generation, hop into KV Core and start. You've got to leverage your large buyer pool and also their influence as your value proposition. What else does that mean? That means to those buyers who are pre-approved, you can share with them, look at these notes that I'm sending to this neighborhood. It's part of the nurture process. Hey, Lee, look, I want to share with you the packet that we're sending out to 500 homes in Pacifica to try and drum up business for you. It creates a nurtured environment of value proposition where they really truly be where you are and where you're truly executing on providing a fiduciary to them and trying to expose them to more potential properties in the marketplace. Okay, number 3, case studies versus just solds. So many of you get these, here's what we're going to start doing. Instead of on social media, it's not going to be just sold anymore. It's going to be, here's what happened. Here's the narrative around what happened in North Park Square. How did we do it? Okay. And here's the basics of this. Explain to the consumers and the neighbors what you did, not how you did. Or I guess you could say how you did in selling the home. But give the story. Use this information also in your listing presentations to tell the story of what's happening in that neighborhood and your value proposition, and tell the before and after story, not only on the postcard, but as a video to also potentially send if you've got, so for instance, Cole Realty, you can buy all the emails in the neighborhood. If you wanted to download those emails and send, in addition to the postcard, a video email that goes out, that's part of your farming. Somebody asked me the other day, well, what does farming really look like? Well, think about having to raise a ranch, you guys. What would that look like? Man, I need water. I need fertilizer. I need sunlight. I need people to ranch hand out there. That's the way that the same mentality and fervor that you would go into launching a ranch needs to be how you'd also launch a geographic farm or utilize these tools. A postcard just isn't good enough. And so what this can tell, or what this can share with you, I'm going to bring this up, but it can share with you how we did it. What did we do to prep and market the house for 4 weeks? How did we sell it? Meaning it sold 6 offers in 5 days. What was our list price versus sales price? How many people came through the open house? How many people looked at it on Zillow and Trulia and Redfin? How many private showings? How many broker tours? And then here's a call to action. So tell the story, show the results, give the call to action, and create a video around it, and utilize these in your listing appointments, so that if you're a person currently who sells 20 homes a year or 15 homes or 12 homes a year, this narrative becomes how people think about you. This is part of your marketing, your branding, who you are, your influence, your persuasion over the marketplace. People heard Bob said, oh, my house sold in 6 days. What does the average client think? Wow, I could get my house on the market in 2 days and it's going to sell in 6. No. Our value proposition is that we sold it 6 offers in 5 days because we had our stager in there, because we put our contractor in there, because we have connections with people who can get shit done right now instead of waiting 2 or 3 weeks to get a kitchen remodel. We've got to be able to tell that story, guys. So that's your true value proposition, so that when you go in and people are bullshitting you about commissions and why you should do it for X% or what Redfin will do it, you can ask the simple question. Well, where are Redfin's results? How did they help prep the home? Where's their influence in receiving 6 offers in 5 days? This is part of that guerrilla warfare that we also talk about in the 21 ways to crush the listing presentation. All right, so we're going to use these case studies. Number one, how our pre-marketing went over the, before the house went on the market, how many offers with how many days, what the call to action is. Every marketing piece that we send out, this is marketing 101, must have a call to action. You get people out there who goes, I'm the top 1% of agents in San Mateo. Well, I'm going to say this. I love those agents. Who gives a shit? How does that relate to what's happening to the client? How does that affect, Jeremy, what the client is going to walk away with? It doesn't. So we've got to have that call to action that explains to them why they need to be why we sent the touch out and why they need to contact us. And then ultimately we wrap that around with a video success story that's repetitive that you're sending out. Excuse me, for every listing that you sell. This was a challenge. A few weeks ago, we talked about, excuse me, I got to take a drink here. I got a little sore throat. A few weeks ago, we talked about the language of real estate and understanding how we can leverage that to tell our story, to create the narrative around who you are, what your business is doing. This is something that it could look like. With Glenda, your days on market goes from 32 days. It goes down from the average agent of 96 days to 32 days. Here's what you save based on the certain price points. Here's Glenda's sales price versus list price. Over the past year, Glenda got 98.2% versus other local brokerages who got 94.1%. So by working with Glenda, by working with me, you make an extra $28,000 on a $700,000 sale. You need to create this content and narrative and have it with you at these listing appointments and sharing it with your sphere of influence. Again, your sphere of influence. How influential are you over them? Think about that. And ultimately working with Sean, working with Glenda, working with Lee or Jeremy or Chris is going to equate to an extra on $1 million home, $50,000. You can't afford to work with anybody else, right? That's how we're going to sum it up. So you have to be able to explain what these numbers mean to them, your numbers. And it's great to, and ultimately, here's what this means. It's great to share that we personally had a record year. Man, we helped X amount of people transact in 2021. As you think about putting your end of the year story out, great to share you had a record year. You know what? This has been a record environment to have a record year. But what does it mean to the client versus the language of real estate? Meaning, how many days are you going to save them on market? How much rent back can you get them? How much more they made working with you? How much they save? You're creating a narrative around what it looks like to work with you and the team. And ultimately, guys, you have to have this. If you don't, you're at a disadvantage because I'm going to have it and I'm your competition when we go to the listing appointment. You have to have this ammunition because all top producing agents are using it right now. So it's time to level this up and attract more listings. What we've talked about so far is basics of current listing attraction, text messages, what the language of real estate means to them, sending out the narrative around what the listing looked like, and ultimately the case studies versus just sold. Next. A letter to their former neighbor as an endorsement. As you think about now, you've just sold a listing in Roseville. Now you have some influence there. They've seen your sign. They've seen your open house sign. You may have just listed stuff out. You may have done a property boost to them. Now they're getting this case study and a specific letter from their former neighbor as an endorsement. Here's what we know about normal neighborhoods when you research farming. A normal neighborhood turns over of 500 homes, give or take, has about a 6 to 9% turnover ratio annually. Okay, so that's a lot of homes in a short geographic area that are going to potentially turn over. Those should be your listings. Why wouldn't they be? You've had your sign up. You've door knocked. You've sent other things out there. you're the person that they need to call to get in front of to sell the property at 103%, 5%, 6% in 4 days on market. If you're not, you have not done a great job at marketing to them to the point where they go, dude, I got to call Lee. I got to call Chris. I got to call Hal. Would you agree? Okay, so you got to rethink selling the house. You got to rethink that. It's not just the sell, it's the access to the other turnover that's going to happen. So get a letter from the former neighbor as an endorsement. You write it, they approve it, you mail it. This can go out twice per month. You know, one time in social media, one time in mail, one time in a property boost. Oh, I'm sorry, going back here. There's another slide here somewhere. I'll get back to it. But bottom line is you create it, have them sign it, and send it out just like you would this. Directed at them. Here's an endorsement from your neighbor. Have you thought about buying or selling this year or over the next 2 years? I've lost myself here. Next question. What are you putting into the marketplace to describe or to share with, sellers who are very much price dependent? At what price would you consider selling your home? You guys have heard this all if you've been in the industry for a long period of time, but really you're sending a message to them that name your price. You can create with KV Core, you can create a landing page that you can market on social media or market through your database that says, name your price, get a landing page going. That's the start of the leads. Those are the touches that are going out. And what is the price? Here you go, Rich. And I'm just picking on you, Rich, once again, because you're right here. Don't feel obligated to answer, right? But Rich, at what price would you have to move? What is the price where you would just say, man, I got to go. I'm out of here. Okay. And in some cases, in some neighborhoods specifically, there is a price to be had, especially when, we've seen some of our areas here have gotten 30% appreciation over 6 months. Right? So activate your sales skills when sending this message out, meaning, what's the objection handling? What do you have a 30-day in this? Well, Rich, what if we get your house on the market? I'll pay for all the marketing. And if we got that price, would you give me a power listing for 30 days? Let's see what we can get. Now you're going to pay $400, $500 for the pictures, but look what you get: marketing, branding, open house. You got the sign goes up, the social media exposure, the emails that go out. We can take this overpriced listing and throw it out there and utilize the rest of the exposure to build our next buyer pipeline. Next, investment properties. Add this as a pillar immediately to your listing attraction repertoire. Here's what we know. There's 138 million homes in the US. 21 million of those are investment properties. That's roughly just under 20%, right? So why? We can pull the lists very easily for non-owner occupants. We can add these to our database, add these to our email repertoire of things that are going out to non-owner occupants. Add them if they're specifically targeted homes that you want in your geographic farm. You can send them a letter up front. Send the mailers to the primary residence, hand addressed, hand stamped, non-branded, just like the others. Make the follow-up calls if they're not on the do not call list. And you can private message some of these people via social media. The brilliance about marketing to sellers is you have access to all of their data. You know their names. You can look them up on LinkedIn. You can look them up on Facebook, and you can get personal with them, even though they're not in town. Most of the time, I would target non-owner occupants who don't live in California. It was the biggest pool of when we were doing short sales, and in Sacramento, 90% of the homes were in distress. The first place we went were non-owner occupants out of state. They needed help. Their property management companies weren't helping them. And it helped us to build this great pool. Why do I say this right now? Because ask yourself the question, and are you narrating this question to the marketplace? Obviously, you're picking up buyers from renters, but have prices gone up? Yes. Have rental restrictions increased? Yes. What's happening with the eviction moratorium? We don't know. Is there increased legalities in owning properties right now? Yes. With the market so hot, is it easier to sell an occupied property? Yes. Are capital gains going to increase under the Biden administration? Yes, probably. They've been talking about it, right? So is now a good time to maybe take this 1031 into a different marketplace that hasn't seen such a rise in prices where we can potentially still get a rate of return? Probably, right? So how are you, the question beyond the question here is, how are you advocating to your database, to the investors that you're working with, or these non-owner occupants that you don't know? How are you advocating a path for them to make more money? You know, here we go, 25% versus 40% in capital gains. Also, this is a value to the whales. I keep telling you, go out, get those whales, go out, get those whales. Why? Because whales typically own 1, 2, or 3 properties. They picked up some land. They picked up a second property. They picked up a couple rentals. They may have something on the market that they want to flip. Now is your time to have these conversations regarding these investment properties and maneuver them down this path so that we're picking up these investment related listings. Okay, so here would be, you're not trying to, why we put in no fear? You're not trying to create this narrative of fear like, oh my God, the world's going to crash. You need to sell this market. You're simply adding value. Hey, do we think rental restrictions are going to increase in Sacramento? Probably they are. Do we think capital gains is going up? Yeah. Have we seen buyer demand plateau? Yeah, it has. So how can we, where can we take this extra money, this equity that you've had, and reinvest it? So I hope this finds you are doing well. I've been searching for a home for my clients. They have, 3 kids and desperately want to live in the community. I saw that you own 1, 2, 3, an investment property. I'm curious, with prices peaking, an election cycle, or however you want to frame that, would you be open to selling a property? We can assist your tenants in finding a new place. And side note, and you can read the rest of it, but side note, we are working right now with a lot of past clients who have investment properties who are going, can you get rid of it? Can you sell it? My client or my tenant hasn't made a payment in 4 months, or my tenant's been half paying and they're not, they don't qualify for the relief fund. And so they're going, how can we get out of this? Why, while prices are super high? Because once prices start to drop, and they're not getting paid, it really creates an issue for them. Investment properties, no fear, add value. Ultimately, we got to go back and we got to make these calls to the people that we know who are going to be transacting. These are this is the basics, the script, basics of listing attraction. I sent you a letter about the property on X Street. Did you receive it? As you watch value rise, have you considered trading the property, cashing out? Would it be helpful to get an updated valuation of the home? I can send it to you via text or email. Which is better? Who would you do this to? You would do this to what we call geographic farms or circle prospecting. Here's how you can also do that. When you're doing your open houses, you can circle prospect that area and invite people to the open house, invite other sellers to come by and grab market information. But good things happen. The bottom line here, Tom Ferry says, good things happen when good people make phone calls. Anything you say on a phone call is good. It means you're making the calls, and your ability to understand what's happening in the market, to bring value and to have an end goal in mind, help you to have an ultimately intelligent conversation. A couple more here before we wrap up. We want you to mail a CMA to everybody that's in your database that you've transacted with from 2010 to 2019 ASAP. Mail a CMA, keep them informed as to the house value and what the contrasting home prices are looking like in their area. I interviewed a kid the other day who was thinking about coming on board, and he says he does a hand generated CMA to all of his past clients once a quarter. Just touching and reaching out to them, letting them know what the difference in value is. I thought, man, that is brilliant. And we'll probably try and roll that into a repertoire of outbound mailers in 2022. But everybody that you have in your database that you've transacted with needs a CMA right now. Okay. And within that, there needs to be some kind of narrative around it regarding supply and demand. Here's what we know. Here's what we just learned from Altos research. Inventory is up 7.6% over 2 weeks and 30% since April. If you're thinking about moving, transacting, moving up, moving down, moving out, now is the time to do it. And man, Rich, don't you wish you would have invested in 2 homes 2 years ago when you bought? Important you use the word invested instead of bought or purchased, because now they need to think about this as an investment when they're thinking about a current transaction. Many of you aren't utilizing the Express Offers platform. We just submitted 2 offers and got pretty favorable responses back from them last week. They've got new players in the game versus when it first started. Like everything, it's a growth measure. But utilize this not only when you're talking about, calling these non-owner occupants or calling vacant houses that are out there, utilizing the Express Offers. Well, what if we could get you an offer right away? Utilize this platform, okay? Also, when you're going to a listing appointment, make sure you're telling them about Express Offers. Most of your competition have other iBuyers that you're utilizing. Think about it now. Redfin and Zillow will make you an offer sight unseen in regards to the house. You need to have that in your repertoire when you're going to the listing appointment. Here's price A, here's price B, here's the wholesale price to get this thing sold cash over the next 7 days. And then ultimately, you have to add these brilliant basics that will help you generate business. If you've been in sports, I'm a golfer. So whenever things go sideways, I go back and I talk about the basics, the alignment of the feet and the grip and the ball position and those basic things that help me to get the best golf score. You need to think about adding these basics to your everyday outbound touches to help attract more listings, which is where it's at. So I'll ask you the specific question. What are you going to make a commitment to improve on and add to your your outbound lead generation, prospecting, marketing, persuasion, influence, content, and attraction company to help you grow in 2022? All right, that's stopping the share. We're at 11:59. A lot of people are still on the call, which is great. But that's what I have today. Go and attract listings. Don't fight for them. Utilize these tools and resources and basics to implement on a daily basis and make it fun. All right. Anybody have anything? No? Okay. Good stuff. Well, then we're out of here.
Thank you, Sean. Good stuff.
Okay. Have fun.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.